Welcome back to South Africa for round 7 of the 2006 ITU World Cup Series. This is beautiful Richards Bay, host city for the first ever World Cup race on African soil. A bustling port in the southeastern coast of Africa, Richards Bay is a charming mix of industry and spectacular wild scenery. The perfect backdrop for the Olympic sport of triathlon. And with the women's event now finished, we turn our attention to the men's race from Richards Bay. Before the race, athletes including South African Commonwealth Games team member Henrik de Villiers had the opportunity to attend a local school gathering to meet their newest fans and sign a few autographs.
It's definitely been a lot of organisation. I mean, triathlon in South Africa is a smaller sport compared to rugby and soccer and the bigger ones. So it's coming from quite a couple of years back. It's growing and it's definitely making progress. And I think this is a big step in the right direction with getting the World Cup to South Africa. Well, if I'm in the lead group 1K from the end, I'll really give it an extra 110%. And I think I'm really in a good shape to take it from there. If I can just put myself in that position, it will just can't really exactly think now what will be going through my head then, but it will just to win and get the final honour and glory of the day.
Aussie Craig Walton is returning to World Cup racing after a prolonged absence and is looking to pick up where girlfriend and training partner Emma Snowsill left off in the women's event.
Hunger is definitely there. I've certainly lacked it in the last 18 months, and that's more so just because I've had so much bad luck, and it's certainly, mentally it's been tough to get myself back up there. I'm certainly not getting any younger, but I'm not too old either yet, so I've had to certainly dig deep and look for other reasons to race, and you know, I think I've got that hunger back now, and I shouldn't say I think I've got it back, I know I've got it back, and just the will to want to win again, and that's what I want to try and do on Sunday.
Oceania and Commonwealth Games champion Brad Caulfield has his eyes on teammate Craig Walton, who's known for a fast swim, but it's Caulfield's run that has the other men worried.
Guys like Craig Walton and Poulat and Jan Frodeno and those boys that can certainly swim. Craig Walton's probably the best swimmer in world triathlon, so look out for him in the swim leg and the bike leg. He's very powerful, so you know, I guess we just have to, you know, keep an eye on him on the bike with the other runners and stuff like that to try and peg him back as much as we can and try and bring it down to a running race. It's going to be quite a fast race, I think, certainly with the swim leg and the bike leg, trying to chase down these swimmers if you're not out with them, so look out for a fast run leg as well.
Before we get underway with the men's race, let's take a look at the course map once again. The men will race over the same 2-lap swim course as the women, but with the tide coming in, it should be a much shorter run up to the shore for the men at the end of each lap. Again, the bike course features 8 tough laps with 2 significant climbs on each lap, a course that definitely favors the cycling power of Craig Walton, who will also do well over the opening swim stage. But in the end, it will come down to the 4-lap, 10-kilometer run, and that promises to be a fast one. A field of 74 men all made the trip to South Africa, ready to contest this first-time event. But a few names in particular are on our ones-to-watch list. Commonwealth Games gold medalist Brad Caulfield leads the list of favourites, but he's got some stiff competition in the likes of Frodeno, local athlete de Villiers, and of course, fellow Aussie Walton.
Another huge men's field here. The second race to qualify for the Beijing Olympic Games over the 2-year period of time. 74 men, and you can see the significant elevation of the water in just over a 2+ hour period of time. The women had a dolphin dive out over the first 100 meters. The men already into the swim. It is the big Tasmanian Craig Walton. His protege Emma Snowsill led through the early part of the swim, and really nobody else was even close for the balance of the day. And right now, after 250 meters, it is Craig Walton off the front, Poulat from France sitting in second place, Frodeno from Germany back in about third. And after a couple disappointing years, Craig Walton feels that he's back in good health, highly motivated, and this will be a great test of where his fitness is. 2 of the Hungarian athletes sitting into the top 5 right now, including the German Stefan Justice. So 2 Germans, 2 Hungarians, 1 French, and 1 very powerful Tasmanian in the likes of the Olympian Craig Walton. very still waters here. We understand that they do have some high frequency cable out towards the mouth of the harbor to keep away the sharks from coming towards the inner harbor, but it'll be Craig Walton, the big man, pushing the pace here, and he is on a very, very fast time, just over 8 minutes and 35 seconds, as he will look over his shoulder, and Walton will win his first swim preem of 2006. Poulat will be going very quickly trying to catch on, and again, if those two men are able to get away, that will be a dynamic duo, and the rest of the group may just be in trouble. Justice and Ferdano sitting back in third and fourth spot. Qatar from Hungary sitting back in fifth spot as well, and there is very little ripple on this water. It's about 21, 22 degrees. Ferdano from Germany, after a brilliant performance at the bronze medal at the 2006 Mazatlan race. He really got himself pumped way back in 2004 with his silver medal at the 23 and under championships. And the man grew up in South Africa, spent a good portion of his life here, so he has many, many spectators, family, friends, and teammates. And as Craig Walton looks through his armpit, there is really nobody from behind. The helicopter shot down, taking a look right now, but it is about a 10 to 12 second gap right now, and growing as Craig Walton is powering away from some of the strongest swimmers in the sport, with Poulat, with Ferdano in Qatar also, and he comes to shore. It'll be just over 17 minutes and 30 seconds, and Craig Walton is going to have to make up his mind whether he's going to power away as he has done in all of his victories, including 3 World Cup wins in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. Walton leading through the 150 meters towards the transition zone. It is getting a little later in the day here as the men are racing. In the top of the screen, it's Walton into the transition zone already. And now our chase group coming out through, and they are down by about 25 seconds. Poulat, Kutter, Poulat from Hungary into that group. The 2 Germans, Ferdano, as well as Justice, and they have a sizable gap of about another 10 to 15 seconds back to the chase group. So a very powerful group of 5 men, and if they are motivated, there's no reason that they should not be able to track down the great Craig Walton. We're looking back now to our chase group of athletes coming out. De Villiers from South Africa into that group. Arano from Japan. Brian Fleischman, that's a guy who's had a tough 2 weeks. He's lost his bike for the last 2 weeks. Hasn't made it to either of the races, had to borrow equipment. And as we look at our chase athletes coming out of the water at the bottom towards the top is Craig Walton, and now our chase group into the transition zone.
It was no surprise after the men's swim with Aussie Craig Walton out in front on a solo mission. Over 20 seconds back, Jan Frodeno led the chase pack out of the water, but would any of them have the legs to go after Walton? The next 40K would tell.
He has done this oh so many times in his career, and that is look over his shoulder and see no one. He told me that this is the kind of course that he loves. It's a strong man's course. And a group of 5, I think, 2 Hungarians, 2 Germans, and Poulat, so a group of 5 trying to track down Walton. And there are some great cyclists in this group with multiple World Cup podiums. So if they are motivated, Craig Walton is going to have his work cut out for him trying to stay ahead of this group of 5. 1 lap down, and he is not giving up any time. It's still 24 seconds back to our chase group, and Poulat is a very powerful man. Now back to our sizable chase group coming up from behind. De Villiers into that group for sure. Horner from South Africa, so they're well established. Fleischman into that group, and they are 48 seconds back from the group of 5, and some powerful men in this group as well if they're committed. Rito Hugen to that group, and we have seen his phenomenal fitness at the World Championships last year where he was a silver medalist. Start to see the shadows of the day now as we're getting into the mid-afternoon as Walton continues to lead up front. Here comes our group of 5, but you can see the main chase group, and they are starting to eat into some time. But Walton, like Emma Snowsill, will take the first of the bike preems as well as the swim. And as Walton comes past the Zulu dancers, he'll add another paycheck to his liking. They're making the hard left-hand turn, and they have done an absolutely brilliant job of shutting down the streets of Richards Bay. The spectators have been phenomenally supportive all week long as the athletes were out in training. And our chase group of men right now looking over their shoulder, trying to see just who has joined them. And that group of 5 are now one large group of about 35 athletes, as we are looking at a very large chase pack now, and Walton up the road by about 45 seconds. Some great helicopter shots here, a very tree-lined area here in Richards Bay. And a small little mini break now heading off the front, as they are trying to bring back Craig Walton and not let him have too much of a gap as he'll get ready to start his 4-lap 10-kilometer run. Well, Walton will take the second of the bike preems of the day as well as he comes through the transition zone. And you can just see the force that the big man is continuing to put out there. We've got a small breakaway coming up from behind, but they are not really that much of a gap. 38 seconds to the leader. And Craig Walton is going to likely need to have a gap of about 90 plus seconds, maybe more, on the likes of Brad Caulfield and Rito Hugh. And they now are all into this group, including Dimitri Gag, the 99 world champion. So some unbelievable runners will be coming through. They're looking over their shoulders, making sure that nobody gets away. Rito Hugh in that group, as we said. Dimitri Gag, Brad Caulfield as well. Mark Freda is into this group. And now it is one massive chase group of athletes coming through. Philip Ospley has been out with a flat tire, I think, so his day has ended. Daniel Unger as well has had a flat tire on the course, so 2 of the men who could have been sizable factors out here early on. And as we expected, the chase group of athletes are going to have to make up some time here. They're coming by the Zulu dancers, and there's only one man powering out front, and that is Craig Walton, an absolutely replica of what his girlfriend Emma Snowsill did earlier on today. And you can see a small mini break of 2 right now as these men are trying to bring back Craig Walton. On to the bell lap. Walton does take the second bike preem, and he has absolutely dominated through most of the first hour and 15 minutes. And way back to the 95 World Championships, he picked up a silver medal, a bronze at the 2000 World Championships. 6 times he's been a World Cup man on top of the podium. His favorite races in Cornerbrook, Newfoundland in Hungary. And as we look back now to Fleischmann, to Frodano sitting back into this group, to Rito Hugh, to Dimitri Gag, to Brad Caulfield, to De Villiers. We know that it's likely going to come down to the run, and just how much power and energy has Craig Walton used up through the first 2/3 of this Richards Bay BG Triathlon. Well, the big man will have them coming up from behind. We've got a small break of 2 or 3 athletes coming up from behind him, and Walton looking just a little bit fatigued as he's heading out. Craig Walton will head down towards the pier, and as he comes back on the pier, he will know just what kind of gap as the men run right towards each other in the out and back section. One of our Italians coming off the bike right there as they will try to track down Walton, and the major chase group with the big runners of the sport coming off the bike here momentarily as Walton now runs through the shade of the day, and it is approaching 4:30 in the afternoon. It's dark by 5:30, so they're going to have to push to make sure they get in underneath the setting sun as Walton heads out towards the pier, and here they come. Brad Caulfield absolutely smashing himself through the transition zone, desperately wanting to get out onto the start of that 10-kilometer run. He has been in such great fitness. Frodano, helmets off.
Craig Walton still held the lead by close to 45 seconds after the bike, but up next was his most challenging event, the run. And with a hilly course ahead, it would be no cakewalk for the big Aussie.
look at that fantastic setting sun here in the South African winter as Craig Walton continues to lead, but he will know as he turns around this 1.25 kilometer mark that he has some phenomenal runners coming up from behind, and as he's looking just a little bit fatigued out onto the run course, we will now just start to see the chase athletes coming up from behind, and Walton is going to have to be concerned because they are coming very, very quickly now, and he has some of the best runners of the sport with still over 8 kilometers to go on this 10-kilometer run. Historic opportunity to race in South Africa, and many of the athletes came here not just because it was the second qualifying race towards Olympic Games, but because they also wanted to have a chance to see this phenomenal country. And as Dirk Bockel will be suffering right now, our Italian athlete trying to hang on, here comes the horses. Caulfield into that group, Ferdano into that group, moving very well. Rito Hugh into that group, and the three of them are separating themselves now back to Perg. And you can see Glashenko into that group as well. And the sun now starting to set here in Richards Bay, but there is a lot of incredibly fast running to go here as we still have 6+ kilometers to go on the men's side. Walton coming through at the end of lap number 1, and he has the horses coming up from behind. It's now going to be just a matter of time before the incredibly fast running of Brad Caulfield and Rito Hugh starts to go after the likes of Craig Walton. Ferdano spent his grade school and high school days right here in South Africa, lots of family and friends. Back now we're looking to the South African athletes with de Villiers, the Kazakhstan athletes and the likes of Dimitri Gag and Sapunov having very fast runs out there, and we are now looking at the major players here. I think it's likely to come down to these three men who have differentiated themselves from the gap, and Walton is just about to be passed now as Rito Hugh in the red, the two-time Olympian from Switzerland, the silver medalist from the 2005 World Championships, looks to be in great form as he is priming himself for the European Championships in France in just a few weeks. Ferdano, the much taller man, loping right there, but he's staying into a great form in second. And Brad Caulfield, who made a decision at the last minute, sitting back in third. It is Hugh with a brilliant career, 2 times an Olympian, European champion way back in '99. He's had 6 World Cup podiums in his career, and a very popular man on the circuit from Switzerland. Ferdano on the left of the screen, the taller of the athletes, Caulfield in blue and Rito Hugh in red. As we are in now looking at athletes 4, 5, and 6, the 2 athletes from Kazakhstan sitting back into there. Henrik from South Africa is sitting in about 8th place, and he certainly will be the sentimental favorite for the crowd. Our good buddy Casper has worked desperately hard for the better part of a year to get everyone to come to South Africa, and he will be absolutely elated as the Zulu Triathlon Club have done a brilliant job of lining up 250+ volunteers who've worked tirelessly, and they are in now for a phenomenal men's finish as our top 3 men now with about a 25-second gap back to Dimitri Gag, to Sapunov into that group. And we can see also just trying to make his move coming in to the screen, and that is Henrik de Villiers, who will absolutely be over the top if he's able to stay into this league group of 8. It's the BG Richards Bay Triathlon. Most of the athletes landed in Johannesburg and then made their way down to this small, beautiful little community of about 50,000. And Brad Caulfield, the Commonwealth Games gold medalist, as we go into the bell lap, he and Rito Hugh are starting to gap themselves back to Ferdano, whose best all-time performance was 3rd, and right now he's sitting in 3rd, but the 2 men who are moving at an incredible pace of approximately 31 minutes for 10K are starting to move away. Well, you can just see how important that run is as Brad Caulfield, who has worked incredibly hard to improve his run over the last 18 months, starting to move away now from Rito Hugh from Switzerland. Caulfield coming now down to the last mile here at the BG World Cup Triathlon in Richards Bay, is starting to put his stamp on this event. And we saw Caulfield with those phenomenal runs early on in 2006, including victories in Perth and Geelong, the World Cup race earlier in Qatar. And right now, Brad Caulfield, the Commonwealth Games gold medalist, is going, I think, to add another victory, as Rito Hugh just does not look like he's able to go with the incredibly fast-moving Australian. Caulfield now going to make his way towards the finishing line, and like his countrywoman Emma Snowsill, who added her gold medal stamp to this performance in Richards Bay, it'll be another Australian from the Institute of Sport. Brad Caulfield will add the Richards Bay Triathlon to his resume, and what an amazing finishing run. 30 minutes and 59 seconds for that 10K run, 1:52.58. Caulfield, your champion of the day, as Rito Hugh crosses the line just 9 seconds back, 1:53.07, and Frodeno will equal his all-time best as he crosses 1:53.14, the man who went to school here in South Africa. And look at that sprint finish as Dimitri Gag will come in just ahead of De Villiers.
I'm just so surprised I won today. I just sort of I only decided on Tuesday to come down because I wasn't, all that fit. So I thought I'd give it a go. I seen the start list and thought I could maybe sneak into the top 10. And yeah, I mean, I really struggled at the start of the run, and I knew I just had to keep up, and eventually I'll find my run legs as I went through, and that's what happened. And at the 5K mark, I really started to feel good, and I just stayed behind the others and made the move to going up the hill and got away from Jan Frodeno, who was running awesome, and Rito and myself just really worked the last lap, and I managed to get away out on the turnaround and never look back, so it was great.
My aim was just to stick with them, and I didn't know it's my second race this year, so I haven't done that much quick runs, and I didn't know where I am, so I was just hoping to stay with them, and I was happy to help them to make the pace, and we got a bigger lead, and finally I couldn't stay with Brad. He was just too strong at the end, and but I'm more than happy with second.
Today it was good to put it on, especially with Stixie, us living together. It would have been great to stick with him a little longer, but it's good, something to look forward to, something to keep working on, and it was just phenomenal, get a podium spot is always great. It's only my third one, and I'm loving it, kind of coming back home. It's fantastic crowd, everybody cheering us on, great atmosphere. What an awesome race they put on, especially for first time around World Cup. I'm really impressed. Africa's the way to go.
Taking a look at the final results, it was Brad Caulfield in convincing style after a gut-wrenching run to the finish with silver medalist Rito Hugh and third-place finisher Jan Frodeno, while hometown boy De Villiers pulled off a fifth-place finish, making all the locals proud. A brilliant run for the 2005 Under-23 silver medalist Frintova showed she has what it takes to make the podium at the World Cup level, while Anja Dittmer wiped away her disappointment with last week's finish in Madrid to show a return to form with the silver. But it was all about Emma Snowsill today, who returned to World Cup racing with a fury, leading the race from start to finish on her way to her first World Cup win of the season. Taking a look at the women's rankings after Richards Bay, Vanessa Fernandez, who sat this one out, still holds down the top spot, but a silver medal today moves Anja Dittmer up into a tie for second, and Canada's Lauren Groves jumps up to fifth. On the men's side, it was a brilliant return to his homeland for young Jan Frodeno, who ran his way into the bronze medal today. While Rito Hugh also showed incredible running legs in the closing stages to capture the silver medal position. But all eyes were on Aussie Brad Caulfield in the end as he outran all comers to eventually capture the gold medal and his first World Cup victory of the season. Today's victory moves Caulfield into top spot on the highly competitive men's rankings ahead of American Hunter Kemper, who did not race in Richards Bay. Meanwhile, Frodeno moves up to 9th in the rankings, just behind Ishigaki winner Courtney Atkinson. And that wraps up a brilliant day of racing here in Richards Bay, South Africa. Next up, the tour moves to the North American continent for the Edmonton World Cup. Be sure to join us then.